all the hold up was for that.
A lot of traffic on that road.
It is.
Huh?
A lot of traffic on that road.
Sure is.
12,000 cars a day, apparently.
Hmm?
12,000 cars a day. Used to, before the bypass opened, it was more, it was around that.
Yeah.
Used to pass in front of town hall, right? I think that was even after the bypass.
That was after the bypass.
After the bypass.
Probably more than that. And if everybody knows there's construction going on, it goes that way.
How many, 12,000?
Just so you know, it's that.
Yeah. I remember because we had the counts done, for when we were looking at, justification, putting traffic lights at Marine Drive and Fuller Road. And that's what the numbers were passing by in front of town hall every day, 12,000 in the morning. This was in the morning. Was it all day?
That'd be all day.
Must have been all day, yeah.
I love the bypass one. It's my choice.
That's convenient for you, for sure.
Uh, 2 minutes. Did you say Ward's on the way?
He's on his way. I don't-
I'll let you know when I want to hit that, all right? Let's keep our microphones on. We're live? Okay,
So,
go ahead. All right, I'll call our regular public council meeting for September 18th, 2023 to order. Before I get started, I just want to introduce here to my right, Lucas Hopkins. He's one of the winners of our Mayor for Day contest that we ran last year. And we're trying something new. And we're going to give them an opportunity actually to come in and experience a real live council meeting instead of what we used to do before with the mock meetings. And Lucas is going to give me a hand to chair the meeting, and hoping everybody is going to be on their best behavior so he doesn't have to gavel anybody. So with that, this is the first.
agenda minutes.
Okay, so new business.
Sorry, what was it?
Go ahead. Yeah, say Council Tapper.
Council Tapper?
Pass?
Pass. Okay. Let me write that down. Go to the next one.
Councillor Manning,
Thank you.
Okay. Keep going.
Councillor Pollard,
Yes.
Councillor Appleby,
Thank you, and FCM.
Okay.
Councillor Goss,
Pass.
Deputy Mayor Thorne Goss,
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor Scott,
I got a thanks and congrats. And what about you, Lucas? What do you have?
I want to thank all my friends
Okay.
and family.
All right, we'll do that we'll have to do that at the end. All right, need a motion to adopt the agenda as amended, please.
So moved.
Moved,
Second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. You can't vote. Well, you can vote, but don't vote.
You can pretend.
Hand won't record it, but you can put your hand up if you want. It's fine. All right, we have a set of public council minutes for September 5th. Could I get a motion to adopt those, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any errors or omissions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Conflicts of interest.
Okay, everybody has our sheet here in front of you. If there's any conflicts that arise, we will deal with them at that time. Okay. This is a big one.
Proclamations, presentations, question and answer session.
All right, so we got lots of proclamations tonight. We have 7. And I wrote everything down. First one, Councilor Manning.
Okay. Proclamation, Sexual Violence Awareness Week, September 10th to the 16th, 2023. Whereas End Sexual Violence NL, ESVNL, works to provide support, information, and education to the province of Newfoundland and Labrador in the area of sexual violence. And whereas ESVNL is now commemorating the 24th anniversary of Sexual Violence Awareness Week, as well as the 39th anniversary of their Take Back the Night event to further the goal of eliminating sexual violence. And whereas the rate of sexual assault in Newfoundland and Labrador continues to be higher than the national average, in particular in Indigenous communities in Labrador. And whereas the need for the criminal justice system to consistently execute best practices in its response to survivors of sexual violence is urgent. And whereas survivors of sexual violence need to feel safe to report and seek justice. And whereas the government of Newfoundland and Labrador recognizes the need for people of our community to live in safe and caring communities where violence is unacceptable and promotes efforts that improve supports for survivors, raise awareness, and educate the public. And whereas the elimination of sexual violence requires the collective voice and power of individuals, families, organizations, and communities. And whereas all residents of the town of Torbay and Newfoundland and Labrador are urged to learn more about sexual violence and become active participants in the elimination of these crimes. And whereas the government of Newfoundland and Labrador addresses and supports the removal of systematic and institutional barriers and biases that would prevent anyone from reporting violence and to ensure accountability. And
Therefore, be it resolved that I, Craig Scott, Mayor of the Town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim September 10th to the 16th, 2023 as Sexual Violence Awareness Week and commit to challenging dominant narratives, policies, and practices that perpetrate harm in our community. So moved.
second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. Thank you. Next one is a proclamation for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I think Councillor Goss has that one.
Is there a maximum on
There is.
the microphones?
Someone may have to turn off a microphone.
There you go.
Okay, good, thank you. Proclamation Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, September 2023. Whereas there are about 10,000 children living with cancer in Canada today, and whereas each year about 1,600 cases are diagnosed, over 25 of which are children in Newfoundland and Labrador. Whereas in Canada, childhood cancer remains responsible for more deaths from 1 year through adolescence than any other disease. And whereas about 1 in 4 children who are diagnosed with cancer will die of the disease. Whereas because of the significant advances in therapy, 78% of children diagnosed with cancer will survive 5 years or more, an increase of almost 46% since the early 1960s. Whereas childhood cancer have a close to a 75% cure rate, with leukemia leading the success charge with close to a 90% overall cure rate.
Now therefore, I, Mayor Craig Scott, on behalf of the town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim September 2023 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the town of Torbay. So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, next on the list, Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Councillor Tepper.
Okay, Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, September 2023. Whereas, as per the Canadian Cancer Society, the most common cancer among Canadian men is prostate cancer. And whereas prostate cancer is the 3rd leading cause of death from cancer in men in Canada. And whereas 1 in 8 Canadian men will be diagnosed with the disease in their lifetime. And whereas this year alone, 24,000 Canadians are expected to be diagnosed with prostate cancer. And whereas factors that increase the risk of developing prostate cancer include family history, black ethnicity, including African or Caribbean ancestry, obesity, and tall adult height. And whereas anyone with a prostate can get prostate cancer. And whereas men who have a higher risk of developing prostate cancer should consider testing from age 45. And whereas it is important to get regular health checkups and see a doctor if there are symptoms and concerns about your health. When prostate cancer is found and treated early, the chances of successful treatment are better. And whereas when prostate cancer is caught early, 5-year survival is close to 100%.
Now therefore, I, Mayor Craig Scott, Mayor of the town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim September 23rd, 2023 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in Torbay. So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Comments? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to make a brief comment. I'm not sure if everybody knows, but I was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2017 when I was in the mayor's chair, actually. And everything worked out fine for me, you know. I was lucky, caught early, and you know, especially the last whereas here, when prostate cancer is caught early, 5-year survival is close to 100%. And I think I find myself in that category. Luckily, I've been having blood work since 20 or more years ago, at least twice a year, because I had some trouble. But in my blood work, my doctor in the PSAs detected some concern, and he sent me to a specialist, and you know, that was history. Everything worked out well for me. So I would, you know, ask any man over 45 or even over 40 to do that. You know, go to your doctor, but tell him, not you know, wait for him, but tell him that I want my PSAs checked every year, get a blood test every year, and things should work out fine. Thank you.
Second that. And don't be afraid or nervous or embarrassed to go get a physical exam done either, because prostate cancer is in my family, and I know that I'm a high risk for it, so that's what I do. Make sure, because you gotta advocate for yourself. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now, next one, Proclamation National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worship. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation will be September 30th, 2023. Whereas the Government of Canada is committed to reconciliation and ensuring that the tragic history and ongoing legacy of residential schools is never forgotten. And whereas in the Constitution of Canada, Indigenous peoples of Canada include the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people of Canada. And whereas the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, of which the town of Torbay is a part, exists on the ancestral homelands of the Inuit, the Innu, the Mi'kmaq, and the Beothuk, recognizing that the culture of the Beothuk has been lost forever and can never be recovered, but can be celebrated. And whereas in 2021, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau declared September 30th as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and September 30th is also known as Orange Shirt Day, which is a day of remembrance for the survivors of residential schools and those who never made it home. And whereas the Government of Canada has passed legislation to make this day a federal statutory holiday, and this day will serve as a day to recognize and commemorate the legacy of residential schools. And whereas the town of Torbay is committed to promoting and strengthening mutually respectable relationships with the urban Indigenous community in Torbay and with all other First Peoples in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Therefore, I, Mayor Craig Scott, do hereby proclaim September 30th, 2023 as National Day of Truth and Reconciliation in the town of Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? Lucas, you can bring this back to your school and say that at school we should do Orange Shirt Day for this National Truth and Reconciliation Day. So you can go back and tell the principal that. I'm sure that they're all over it already, but that's one little bit of homework you can take away from here.
Can I
Okay.
say one thing, please?
Sure, go ahead.
I'd like to say that I'm Indigenous from my dad's side. He used to live in Labrador.
His grandfather was a person of the residential school.
Oh,
when
okay.
he was a young child. This picture is actually in the rooms.
Okay. There you go. So this is a personal one for you. Very good. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Proclamation National Seniors Day. Deputy Mayor.
Whereas communities across Canada joined together on October 1st, 2023 to recognize National Seniors Day and United Nations International Day of Older Persons, and whereas National Seniors Day focuses on celebrating and honoring the significant role seniors play in contributing to community development and creating healthy communities for our town and our country, and whereas seniors in Torbay contributed in many ways to our community and are involved in all aspects of our lives as parents, grandparents, guardians, teachers, volunteers, mentors, and neighbors. And whereas the town of Torbay is committed to enhancing services for seniors and creating an age-friendly town.
Therefore, I, Craig Scott, Mayor of the town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim that October 1st, 2023 be recognized as National Seniors Day in the town of Torbay, and urge my fellow citizens to recognize the crucial role played by older adults in our community and our province. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
I'd just like to make a comment that basically everybody knows that this is the group that's near and dear to my heart. And with us trying to get as many activities as we can and to have creating an age-friendly community. So we have some education to be done on that, and then there's seems to be on a regular basis applications for funding available, but I think there's a whole section that we have to get done on how we move forward. So, and when you say it in here, it sums up that seniors contributed in so many ways, and I think that we're here today because of what our seniors have done for us. So,
Well said. Any other comment? Go ahead, sir.
Just want to, say that again, agree with Deputy Mayor. But, I'm involved with a group. We play music, and we go to seniors' homes in Torbay, Mount Pearl, St. John's, Pleasant View, do the circuit, what we call. Love it. There's nothing better than walking out with a bunch of seniors clapping and happy and everything else. So, I'm in the senior category now myself. So hopefully somebody can return the favor when I'm in a wheelchair. But it's really gives you great gratitude to the maximum when that happens. So I'm in full support of this.
Well, I know last Christmas, myself and you and Jody sang some Christmas carols up at the, Tony was there too, I think. We sang some Christmas carols up at the seniors' home.
Yeah.
They seemed to like it, even though I don't have any kind of skill whatsoever.
I missed that.
We did it. Luckily, we had Ralph and Jody there, a couple of fresh girls to help us out. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Proclamation National Breastfeeding Week. Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, National Breastfeeding Week is from October 1 to 7, and the proclamation is as follows. Whereas breastfeeding is recommended for optimal nutrition and healthy growth and development in the early months and years of life, and is fundamental to the well-being and prosperity of communities. And whereas breastfeeding has an impact on lifelong health, with exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months, and continued breastfeeding for 2 years and beyond, ensuring that mothers and children receive maximum health benefits. And whereas breastfeeding is one of the most cost-effective prevention strategies for many infections and chronic and acute diseases. And whereas infant feeding is one of the most important decisions that a new family makes. And whereas parents need the support of family, friends, government and health authorities, municipalities, community groups and organizations, businesses, and employers. And whereas National Breastfeeding Week provides an opportunity for people to celebrate and to raise public awareness about the importance of breastfeeding and the role everyone can play in normalizing breastfeeding. And whereas the theme for National Breastfeeding Week 2023 is enabling breastfeeding, making a difference for working parents. The theme focuses on the impact of paid leave and workplace support on the duration of breastfeeding and the positive impacts for parents, children, and families.
Therefore, I, Craig Scott, Mayor of the Town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim October 1st to the 7th, 2023 as National Breastfeeding Week in Torbay. So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Comments?
if I could, Mayor.
Great.
Thank you. I think this one's important for me to speak to, and I recall you and I some years back with Deputy Mayor Sheila O'Leary really pushing this agenda. I seem to think there was a breastfeeding booth at the last St. John's convention that we had, and I know that you were a very strong supporter as well. You know, I breastfed both of my children. My son is the same age as Lucas, and I've heard very cool things about you, Lucas, from school. And I wanna speak to the importance of it because, you know, as a new mom who didn't know much about breastfeeding and weighing of babies and the ins and outs, there was a great group at that time that were set up in the Justina Center with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador for breastfeeding clinics. And we used to go in and weigh the babies and learn, and they would help you with all kinds of amazing things. And since then, I've had the benefit of working with the same group, and they're actually set up, to my knowledge, here in the town of Torbay with the Common, and we've got a partnership. The town is supported for that. This is critical for children to have that time. We all live busy lives, and we're all doing different things, but to have that time one-on-one with your child, to be able to have those health benefits for the mom and for the baby. And, you know, to make it so that it's not something that you have to hide in society anymore. And, you know, I was watching a comedy this weekend, a Newfoundland filmed comedy, and one of the comments in the comedy, it said, well, sure, what's she doing with the baby out here breastfeeding? That baby should be taken in the bathroom like it always should have been. Jest and comic understanding of that comment, but the sad part is there's truth in that comment. And it was expected. And then there are rooms next to bathrooms where mothers in public spaces are encouraged to take their children to breastfeed. And if we think about the cleanliness around that, if we think about the message to women feeding their newborns around that, it really is concerning. So I want to say thank you for the changes that have been made. We have had women bringing their babies into council chambers. We have child support in place at FCM on the national level so parents can participate. The things that are happening in our community, the messaging that's happening to make it a norm is brilliant, and this proclamation is one more piece of it. So I just want to thank council for the support. Thank the people who brought this forward. And thank you to everyone that's part of making this normal in our current society. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. One left. Holy moly, the proclamations today. Proclamation for Wrongful Conviction Day. Councillor Manning.
Thank you, Mayor. Wrongful Conviction Day, October the 2nd, 2023. Whereas the loss of one's freedom due to a wrongful conviction has far-reaching and devastating consequences, which not only affects the innocent individual's life, but also affects the quality of life of their families and has a harmful effect on society as a whole. And whereas wrongful convictions question the integrity and fairness of the criminal justice system, and unless corrected, undermines society's trust in their criminal justice system. And whereas Wrongful Conviction Day is a global movement dedicated to advocating for innocent individuals who have been wrongly convicted of a crime they did not commit. The implementation and recognition of this day is the start to reaching a broader audience regarding the importance surrounding miscarriages of justice. A proclamation will assist to advocate, educate, and create awareness around those miscarriages of justice in hope for reform to minimize the effect it could have on another individual.
Therefore, I, Craig Scott, Mayor of the Town of Torbay, do hereby proclaim October 2nd, 2023 as Wrongful Conviction Day in the Town of Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. All right, we don't have any presentations. We didn't receive any Q&A.
Mayor's report.
Okay, so the mayor don't really have anything that I'm going to report on tonight, but I'm going to give Lucas an opportunity now to take this space and for him to have a little conversation about what he's doing and what about the town of Torbay and your contest that you won. Go ahead.
So,
All right, just tell everybody a little bit about yourself then. How about that?
my name is Lucas Hopkins. I am 12 years old. I have a sister named Sophia. And when I first wrote the essay, I didn't know I was going to win, but I felt like I wasn't going to win. But then at the last day of school, they said my name, and I was so surprised.
You did a really good job. I did read them all, myself and the CAO, and we had, I don't know how many, I think we had like 65 entries from your group in that one. And she took them away and read them all, and I took them away and I read them all, and we graded them from best to the really best, because none of them I wouldn't say any of them were bad. They were all good. Any student that's going to take the time to write those essays and put their thoughts in what they believe of the town and what they like about the town. There's no losers in that. Everybody is a winner, but we could only have so many winners like you that are going to be able to come here and sit with us and help chair a council meeting. So, how did you like that experience, or how are you finding this so far? You can just talk to me. You don't have to worry about everybody else who's just making you nervous.
It's actually pretty neat.
Yeah.
I was nervous at first, but I mean, not really now.
Right. I'm always nervous because you never know what's going to come up. You got 7 people sitting around here. You never know what any of them are going to say or what's going to bring up. Some harebrained scheme or something like that. But we tend to get along pretty good, and it's important that everybody has an opportunity to have a say and have their be able to say what they want and to vote on the issues that we're doing, like these things that's going to be coming up. So, were you there with me on Canada Day to cut the cake too? You were, weren't you? I knew that. See, you're right in there, right in, doing a good job. And I want to thank you for coming here tonight. because it is something that, it was an idea that I had that I wanted to be able to do something different with our winners of our Mayor for Day contest, and have you actually come in here and experience what it's like. And the fact that you're nervous means that you are actually experiencing that it is something different for you, and that you're going to be able to do, because all across the province, and myself and Councillor Epp, we serve on the board of Municipalities Newfoundland Labrador, which is the provincial body that represents all towns. All across the province, many towns, they're running out of people that want to run for council. They're older, they're younger people are not getting involved. So it really warms my heart to see people like you and those other 65 or 66 people, not to mention the 100 or so we had from the lower grades with the pictures of the mayor, even though a lot of them weren't very flattering, but they did a really good job. And it's great for us, and this is our job to promote municipal government and councils to students, to people your age, so that you might have an interest in it as you get older. And, because really, I can share with you, lots of people, and adults too, don't fully understand exactly what's involved in being a member of council and what types of things we do and how much work goes into it and all that. So I'm really happy that you took the time tonight to come to and share this meeting with us and have this experience. And I'm sure the rest of the council feel the same way. So what do you think of that?
Pretty cool.
All right. Enough said. Very good. I like you. You're a man of few words. But I'm sure that you're not. All right. What's next on the agenda, buddy?
Business arising.
All right. The business arising report is attached. Anybody have any issues on there or items they want to discuss? Okay. Seeing none. Next.
Correspondence.
All right, so we have a correspondence there from Fisheries Oceans, the Fish Habitat Program brochures. That will go to planning. M&L Conference Trade Show. Oh, yeah, okay, here we need to do this. There's something else already. Oh, here it's all attached. Okay, so it's a memo here. We're going to need, there's a motion attached here. So we're going to need somebody to read out the motion. Councilor Tapper, would you mind doing that?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Resolved and in relation to the 2023 M&L Conference, Trade Show and AGM, that the two voting delegates from the town of Torbay are Mayor Craig Scott and Deputy Mayor Mary Thorngoss. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, sir. That looks after that. And then we have a correspondence here from resident regarding traffic. What's going on there? Okay. Traffic and speeding in the community. And I believe I received, this came to me. I was copied on it. So we'll send that one off to Public Works to look at. And we probably already responded to the resident anyway, which is the nature sometimes of these correspondence, but it is nice to be able to bring them in, put them in the council package and have them on the record, even though we've already dealt with them with the resident in 99% of the time. All right. Next.
Okay. Committees of council. This one.
Yep.
Committee of the whole.
Okay, so we have a committee of the whole report dated September 11, 2023. I don't think there's no motions in that. Could I get a motion to adopt that report, please?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Can I make a note on that, Mayor?
Sure.
I'd just like to have it reflected in the minutes that I didn't participate because I'm in conflict.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Planning and land use development.
There you go. Councillor Pollard.
Thank you, Your Worships. The first one is an application for home office use, driving school. We received an application proposed to establish a home office in association with the driving school business at 384 Wallis Line, Pine Line. There'll be no customers coming to the
Every single
property, so there will be no associated signage. Committee recommends that we move ahead with this, so the motion is here. Motion to conditionally approve application BR 2023-014 at 384 Pine Line for a proposed home office in association with the drug school in accordance with regulation 3390 pertaining to discretionary uses and standard conditions for the operation of home-based business in Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Next one is similar as an application for a home office, and this one's in association with home inspection services at 25 Easterbrook Drive. So motion to conditionally approve application BR 2023-013 at 25 Easterbrook Drive for a proposed home office in association with the home inspection business in accordance with regulations 33 and 90 pertaining to discretionary uses and standard conditions for the operation of home-based business in Torbay. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the final one is a motion to accept permit listing for weeks ending September 13th, 2023. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The remainder of the report is there for your reading. If anybody has any questions, we're certainly take any discussion on those. There is a lot still on the plate of the planning development. These are some of the quicker ones that people go through. There are some of them still sitting on the burners. Obviously, we're still dealing with the municipal plan and the related services around that as well. And the Great Pond water studies. I mean, know that there's a Great Pond presentation coming up 27th. So that's my report, Your Worship.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Moving on, what's next?
This one?
Yep.
Administration and Human Resources.
All right, Counselor Manning.
Oh, that was pretty quick tonight, getting to me.
Next off,
Thank
everyone
you.
next week, remember?
Okay, first thing here is motion required, excuse me, regarding the ATIP Act, designation of head by local public body. So it's all there as to why it's needed. I don't think I need to read it all out. I'll go to the last paragraph. Although there is a motion in minutes of November the 8th, 2004 council meeting to appoint CAO/town clerk as head, it was suggested by the ATIP office to put forth an updated motion. And I'll read that now. The motion goes, resolve that further to motion 2004-332, November the 8th, 2004, council meeting minutes, and as per section 109 of the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Act 2015, that the town of Torbay designate the chief administrative officer, CAO, as the head of the local public body, being the town of Torbay. The town of Torbay shall advise the minister responsible for this act of the designation. As per section 110 of the act, as head of the public body, the town of Torbay, the chief administrative officer, CAO, will designate a person or persons on staff as the coordinators. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions?
Just a quick one. So the town of Torbay CAO will designate a person or persons on staff as the coordinators. Does this now have it set up so that if someone puts an ATIP in, the CAO doesn't respond, that someone else does? Is that what we're
It will be
voting on?
whoever is designated as the coordinator. So in all likelihood, it'll probably be the CAO and someone else.
Okay. And what was the reasoning for making the change?
Because
What-
we had to have an ATIP coordinator
Right.
designated, and right now we do not.
But my understanding from the other motion was that the CAO was, I just want to get some
Right,
clarification.
but that CAO is no longer here. So in order to be the ATIP coordinator, you had to have training and to be able to be designated as such. So we're in the process now of some of our staff are at least one or two, getting trained in the ATIP coordinator role to be able to process ATIPs.
Okay, so how does that go? There's only certain members of staff who can do it, and they
Yeah.
have to be trained and signed off by the province?
I'm not sure, Mark.
Yeah.
So just to provide some clarification, when we spoke to the ATIP office with the change in the CAO position, it was recommended that we bring forth this motion to appoint a new head of the public body, so the town of Torbay. So this motion appoints me as head of the public body. And now we're working with the ATIP office to coordinate the training for our ATIP coordinator and to carry through on the requests that we currently have on the books. So this was just to really update our motion and to then officially designate now an ATIP coordinator. So we do have to designate, I will designate an ATIP coordinator. Anne as deputy clerk / town clerk right now will be the ATIP coordinator, and she will be the representative for the public body, being the town of Torbay, to deal with ATIP requests and to process them.
Okay, so there's a provincial training that's required, and then once that's done, then that's in place. I just want to understand the designation component. I've got no problem with the motion, but I just wanted to understand like how we're designated and making sure that, because I do know there's training for the legislation, so I just want to make sure that we're considering that before we vote.
We're doing this to be compliant with the Municipalities Act when it comes to ATIP request. And this recommendation and advice was given to us by the ATIP office.
Awesome, thanks Mark, appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions?
Just a comment again, at our corporate services meeting last week, and you notice on our list of invoices, there's a 10,000 one there for Stuart McKelvey, legal, again, and most of it, according to Norm, our director, is in relation to ATIP requests. So I think, you know, I wasn't going to mention anything until this motion came along, but I'll fit it in here if I could. That I think it's great to have as many trained in this ATIP, you know, these situations, right? Because it's costing us a bloody fortune, you know, and if we could put some control on it, or, you know, and these requests, how much time they're taking, it's not only money, but our staff time. They're you know, spending oodles of their time researching and whatever. So I think it'll be great if we could have as many of our staff trained and see what we could do with these requests in the future, just to avoid at least some costly invoices.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, excuse me. I'll go on to the minutes. I'll highlight the recruitment and selection process. We are still in the process of the Chief Administrative Officer hiring process. We are moving forward with that. Economic Development Tourism, that is that closed on September 1st and going through the next steps in the competitive selection. Same way with the accounts receivable and procurement administrator. Next steps are we're working on now as we speak. And also the corporate services administrator, both that position was posted internally and externally, also closed on the 1st, and the hiring manager is working on the next steps in the competitive section of that. I'll move on to the policies and procedures. Right now it's status quo on those, and we're working on them, not at every meeting, because we're trying to get these job process and certainly their first one done and completed. But they're there on the books, and we're hoping within the next month now to really get rolling on those, get back to them and get working on those. Other than that, that's it there. And once again, any questions, please feel free. And if I haven't got the answers, I know people around the table who have.
All right,
I just have one. We have an idea
Right.
when, what is the expected CAO hire time, you know? I know it's not firm or hard, but I mean,
Yeah.
is there?
imminent.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I'm going to suggest let's give it 2 weeks for sure. Could be less.
Just comment if I could.
Hmm?
I'm not involved in this process at all. However, as past chair of this committee, or somehow connected to the committee, I don't remember exactly how, I'm thinking I may or may not, I don't remember. Anyway, what we used to do was when we set up the hiring committee, sometimes we would bring in someone external that would have the knowledge of that
Absolutely.
position. I don't know if we're doing that now, but I think it's a good idea, because it's nice to have someone who's living the experience to be able to evaluate the people that are there. So I'm not
Absolutely.
suggesting that
For the
committee-
CAO position, we do have an outside consultant who we've been working with and going through the final process with. And it's absolutely outside eyes, even though at the end of the day, it certainly isn't, it's an expense like everything you pay for. But it's money well spent.
But I know that we had like people who volunteered from other municipalities as well, who supported with the positions and the interviewing. And I don't know if committee is considering it. I'm not saying that you need to. I'm just saying that it was helpful in the past when, if we were hiring a position and there was another person who was willing to volunteer their time,
Absolutely.
back and forth from councils to provide that support.
Absolutely, yeah.
It was helpful in the processes that I was involved in.
I'd just like to add that we had a committee of the whole to discuss the way that we move forward with that. So that's pretty much all
Absolutely.
been, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Because
Thank
that
you.
was the
you.
company
Okay.
that you came back and said that you were in conflict of interest. You couldn't attend the meeting. AR, yeah. What is it, AR?
Okay.
Yeah, so that was the night that we finalized that.
We will be looking to avail of external resources from other municipalities when it comes to particularly the Economic Development and Tourism Officer position. Councillor Appleby, and we have used, as you've mentioned in the past, close by municipalities who have the resources available to come in and sit on the interview board with us. Obviously, there's a time commitment and scheduling commitment that has to go with that, but for the position of Economic Development Tourism Officer, we will most likely look to see if we can get someone from another municipality to sit in on that interview board, if possible.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I just know that it was helpful, and we, it was a giving time back and forth from municipalities, cost
Absolutely.
savings, ability to support the process. So thank you for the time.
All right.
Shared knowledge is wealth, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All righty, what's next, buddy?
Corporate services.
There you go, corporate services. Councillor Tepper.
Okay, our committee met on September the 18th. Just read into the record. Payroll, regular payroll for 61 employees for the 2-week period ended August 30th, 2023 totaled $126,272. Accounts payable for the 2-week period ended September the 8th, 2023, invoices in the amount of $210,301.60 were processed. We have some invoices for approval. There are 12 operating invoices totaling $266,045.24. So we'll go through them. Invoice number, August 2023, CIBC Mellon, $33,830.66. Invoice 407462, Diligent, $18,092.11. Invoice 139637, Englobe Corp., $8,395. Invoice 205942, GFL Environmental, $48,626.85. Invoice 15126939, North Atlantic, $5,414.97. Invoice 310207, North Atlantic Unleaded Fuel, $6,732.77. Invoice August 4th, 2023414, NL Power, $19,850.06. Invoice August 29, 2023, NL Power, $19,812.98. Invoice August the 16th to the 31st, Receiver General, $78,563.48. Invoice 910610003, Stuart McKelvey, $9,988.96. Invoice 91059106, Stuart McKelvey, $10,987.40. Invoice 223887, Triware, $5,750. So moved for approval for payment.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
Yes, I've got. I'm just looking at the Stuart McKelvey ATIP advice,
Right.
like $10,000.
Yep.
So can I ask how many ATIPs that included? Is there several, or is that just for one? Or am I okay to ask that? I don't know if that's Norm.
I think you can ask how many it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Norm,
Mark would know.
Mark,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Can answer that.
So that particular invoice was involving two ATIP requests, two separate ATIP requests.
I just find that, outstanding for that amount. And the code of conduct consultations, $10,000. So that's something more than, because we received training and that on that, so that's another huge, so I guess I can, if that was, well, I'm saying in relation to an investigation or whatever, that could be.
Really talk, expand.
I know, but I'm just looking at $10,000 is a lot of money. That's basically $20,000. The other thing that I've got to ask, considering that amount of money, where is that funding being taken from to cover this off? Because that was one thing that we talked about, because I know going down over the various reports here, some of the reports that are there for year-to-date revenues and expenditures, like they're 200% and 300% over, and we had talked about if any area went over or were expecting to go over their allocation, that it was going to be determined what GL that funding was going to be taken out of.
Well, when you're looking at ATIP requests come in, and staff have 20 days to deal with it.
I know,
Clock
but
goes,
I'm
right?
also saying, based on the balancing of budgets, and we talked about this before, and I know that based on some other expenditures now that are going to come up with regards to the staffing and process that we just had, it needs to be identified. So should we be looking at potentially freezing spending? And I'm putting that out there, we've done it before, so that we can get a handle on how much we're overspent in various GLs. Because if not, and we are in the budget process really now, to be overspent, because if everyone just says, oh yeah, it's there, it'll come from somewhere. But we had said at the beginning of the year, we needed to identify where it was coming from. And where these are big ones, I can see that not just being one department, but maybe all of the departments are going to have a look and say where there's funding potentially not spent and put it all together. Because it's everybody's budget if it's not there, and where's the shortfalls coming from? Because again, that goes back to the accountability, and there's no point of us having a budget if we're just going to say, yeah, it has to come from somewhere. That's the thing. So when it comes in like this, and the GL should be identified, then we know where it's coming from. Because I'm not comfortable when I look at the year-to-date revenues and expenditures of where some of that's coming from. And we even discussed, actually, just to put it out there, from a staffing perspective and where we're going, that really if anybody has got, it'd be my recommendation, and maybe we need a motion for it, if there's any excess in any of the departments' HR budgets that we have that hasn't been used, that's there, I think that needs to be frozen and to put in to cover the shortfall of the process that we're going through.
So can we ask the Corporate Services Committee to take that back and look at it, about where we're to, and come up with some recommendations? I know we got a meeting coming up soon to discuss the budget, and that, to be able to highlight that, I know that Council Pollard asked for something like that very short time ago, about current year to expenditures.
Yeah,
and-
because the presentation that we had a few weeks ago didn't get into where the shortfalls and where we need to, because I sent something to Tony asking, like, to shed some light on it for me, to be able to go through, because that's where the accountability side of this is coming from, and any of our residents or anybody that's putting in ATIP knows that there's a significant cost to that.
Yeah.
But we have to identify, if we're going to proceed with it and action it, then we need to identify the funds from
Right,
somewhere.
yes. But some of these things, we have no choice, we have to do them.
I know, but that, I'm not saying, I know we have to do it, but we also have to identify where the funds are coming from.
Right.
And that's part of when it comes in for an invoice, to be able to do that. And the other question that I got, so, has the...
Hang on now, there's a motion here,
Oh,
right?
sorry, I was just going to ask the question when I got hung up on budget. All right, sorry,
All right. Okay,
forgot that.
go ahead.
If I could build on the Deputy Mayor's comments there around those two invoices. Councillor Tapper had mentioned earlier, there's a significant amount of money, taxpayers' money, that's been put into the cost for the ATIPs. And I agree with the Deputy Mayor, it's a significant amount of taxpayers' money. I'm wondering if it's possible for the public to have the committee tally up what money is being spent on ATIP. And I think to Deputy Mayor's point, if residents can see the amount of tax dollars that go into it, you know, it may give pause and thought about how much and what they're ATIPing. So I think it's important to have that conversation. And, you know, we're saying one thing, but to quantify it is another. So I think if I could ask that the next package include what the cost is for ATIP, that would be valuable. Taxpayers, I think, have the right to know. And I think under the Code of Conduct, consultations, and respectful workplace policy, I don't know what the costs are, but again, for budgeting purposes, I think it's important that we have that put together and pulled up. One, for council to be aware of, because the Deputy Mayor's right, there needs to be money allocated in the budget. So if we know it's cost X amount of dollars to do this in the past, then council can make a formed decision in the budgeting process to say, well, we expect to need X amount of dollars in next year's budget, if that's the case. And the other thing too, if money is being spent on those issues, you know, at council, I think it's important that taxpayers understand how much of that money is being spent. It's their money. So I would ask that that be included as well in the next public package.
No, listen, I completely agree, which is why I also talked to the legal about that, about us posting after we complete an ATIP request, to post the request and the information on our website so that the residents can see what it is, because they pay for it. They get to have it. And apparently there's no issue with doing that, right, Mark? Right. Exactly. And going forward, if we want, we can even stick the price tag next to it, what it costs to fulfill that particular ATIP. And I have no issue with that. That way, that's fully open and transparent, and people can see exactly what it is that people are ATIPing, how much work is involved in putting it out, and then what it costs.
Can
Just in
Yep.
can you add the person's name?
No.
No?
No.
It's totally out of the question?
No. I mean, even us, as we're fulfilling an ATIP request, we're requested to provide information. We're never given the name
never
of
know.
the person that's requesting the information. That's only privy to the ATIP coordinators, and not to us. So, I mean, that's important information.
That'll be just a question people will ask.
Yeah.
Are we permitted to do that? So,
Right, and
clarify.
we can put all that in that section of our website to say
Yes,
these
yeah.
are ATIP requests and the rules around how
No, we can't.
people do it, and, yeah, do all that. Okay,
Mayor, one last question on that. The cost for the legal, I'm curious again, back to the point of the previous motion on
Are
it.
you talking about the ATIP one?
Yeah,
The reason for that is because when the ATIP request came in, we didn't have a trained ATIP coordinator, so we had to send that lock, stock, and barrel to the lawyer to do for us.
That's the rationale that I was asking to have documented. I think that's important too, because back to the point of if we have trained ATIP coordinators, and if we don't, where the cost savings could be there, I think that's an important piece as well for the public to understand in the conversation of tonight.
Yep.
So I think that's useful if we could include that information as well.
Sure.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, Tony, sorry.
Just in relation to these requests for breakdowns of particular costs, I think the more prudent course of action for us would be to get to the budget consultations sooner than later, because every one of these projects that someone has to undertake to dig out costs should be part of the budget process as well. So that if that takes away from the process, I would prefer that we get to the table sooner than later with the projections for the year, and then we can identify what they are and then publish things on the website and things of that nature. Right, but I mean, it's important. I mean, I've been sitting and watching the figures fairly regularly, and I share the same concerns that the deputy mayor and well, we all do certainly share the concerns, but there are also some increases in revenue too, like our interest income is up significantly, and we did have a sale of a particular piece of equipment, and we got sales of some other piece of equipment coming up. While it's not what that fund should be used for, it certainly may help us out in the situation, but that's the stuff that we need identified and brought forward with good, firm projections for year end, so we know exactly where we are, and identify the reasons for those overruns, and then publish it all as part and parcel, rather than have everyone going off all tangling. That's just my thoughts on it.
And that was the question that I didn't realize that about being the motion. That time I wanted to ask Norm, so is the budget process started with the different departments in
Can
preparation?
we ask that after we deal with the motion?
Oh, I thought, that's why I'm asking you, I thought
All
the
right.
motion was
Okay,
still
all
gone.
in favor?
Aye, sorry.
Opposed? Carried.
That was a long discussion. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to the question now. Norm, has the budget process started with?
Yes, Council Power asked for projection there late last week. That's emptied in. I used that same spreadsheet, broke it down, and all the budgets are in the hands of all the directors and managers. Come back, I've asked them to be back either this Friday, or Monday of next week. I've already got one back.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, back to you, sir.
All right, thanks. So that, and the only reason why I'm saying that is that the sooner we get together as a council to go, so that we're not up to Christmas week, trying to get all that, because last December, like, the whole month was tied up in budget.
One question I did have from both directors is council will be having presentations in chamber in the past years.
Well, we'll have to figure it out. We're not gonna decide that right now, this
Yeah.
minute. We'll figure that out as we go forward. The Corporate Service Committee can look at that, and we'll, obviously, we'll have a meeting as council and decide
Yeah.
what our budget process will be. Okay, carry on, sir.
Okay, we do have one motion that I have to step away from because I'm a member of the group involved, so I'll turn it back to Councillor Goss.
Okay.
Your worship, I also had to step away from that because I'm also in that same group.
Okay, all right.
I can sing for you.
All right, I'll read the motion for the Torbay Folks Art Choral Group advertising request. Correspondence was received requesting the purchase of advertising space in the concert program for a fundraising concert for the Torbay Folk Arts Choral Group. Councillor Tapper indicated that he was a member of the Torbay Folk Arts Choral Group and therefore could not participate in the discussion with regards to the purchase of the advertising space. The committee, with the abstention of Councillor Tapper, approved the purchase of half a page of advertising space in the concert program for the Torbay Folk Arts Council with a cost of $125. So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Seconded, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. You?
That's it.
All right. Any other questions? All right, buddy, what's next?
Economic development and tourism.
There you go. All right, Councilor Apley.
Thank you, Mayor Hopkins. Appreciate that, and Mayor Scott. The Economic Development and Tourism Committee met on September 13th from 6 to 7. Myself, Councillor Manning, and a big thank you to Cameron Spencer, our marketing coordinator, for stepping in and supporting the committee in the interim. It's very much appreciated. The agenda items for discussion, we talked about the contents and graphics for the business startups, the Experience Torbay Tourism campaign for fall 2023, and that will begin on Thursday, September 28th. The business retention expansion surveys and report, the work that's been put in for that. The business directory on the town website has been updated. The community profile, we talked about that. Incorporated businesses, we had a conversation and touch base on that. The tourism maps, they were distributed and out for people to take in. The fall community guide was completed in early August and provided to the marketing coordinator to be included in the fall edition of the community guide. And economic development tourism inquiries, we chatted about communication and how we're communicating with the public. You'll also find attached a copy of a very amazing PDF about how to start a business in the town of Torbay. And I just want to put a shout out to the staff that have made all of this work possible. Councillor Manning and I had a great update of all the great work staff has been doing, and very, very proud of the work that they've put in, very proud of the work that they've done, and very much appreciate Cameron's enthusiasm and interest to step up in this space and move forward the agenda items until we get a person hired in the position. So that's about it for me for the update. Councillor Manning, do you have anything to add?
No, as you said, just happy to have Cameron step up and fabulous job done by the staff.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
And we're going to resume our meetings on Thursdays at 7. We have them motioned to be at 6 o'clock, Mayor, but to accommodate the schedule, we're going to adjust it until we get the Economic Development Officer in place.
That's fine.
Yeah. So thank you, mayors.
Okay.
I got
Any
a
questions?
question. I got a question, and I think we mentioned it at the last meeting with regards to the farmers market. Did you bring that up to see if that's going ahead?
Do you mean the Torbay Fall Market?
Yeah.
Yep. Cameron has actually volunteered and offered to step in and provide support to move that forward.
Okay.
So he had sent a note to myself and Councillor Manning and asked if we would support that, and we certainly both think that's a great idea.
They haven't got a date though yet, have they?
I put that to Mark because that's more of a staff operational thing, so I'm not sure about the date, but I do know staff resources are being provided.
Okay.
Yeah, so I also want to acknowledge the work that Cameron is doing as our marketing coordinator while we have a void in our economic development tourism officer position. And I also want to thank Maria Humby, who was our economic development tourism ambassador, who a lot of this work was done by her with the departure of our previous economic development tourism officer. So I want to put accolades out there as well and thank Cameron for stepping up. The date that we're looking at right now for the farmers market, I believe, is November the 20th. So we're looking at it during the month of November based on scheduling at the Common and the availability of resources over there. We are looking at it for November, I think November 20th, in around that date.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Good, all right, thank you very much. What's next?
This one?
Yep.
History, heritage, culture, and arts.
Deputy Mayor.
All right. So we had our meeting on the 4th. Councillor Tapper and the manager, Noah. I'm not going to get into the particulars there because it's the presentation or the update here is pretty similar to what we had on the other one. And the mold update on that is there, and the remediation that's attached, and Creative Minds is at capacity, and the advisory committee is meeting on the 19th. Financial report, preparing donation letters for distribution to local businesses in Torbay, St. John's, requesting support for the museum annex project and the Museum Advisory Committee will assist with that project. And the art exhibits, there are 2 new art exhibitions featuring the works of Catherine Ryan and Colin Noseworthy, and they opened on the 9th. I don't know if there's anything else. Pico's Ridge, the memorial, the manager will work with the town of Portugal Cove St. Phillips to schedule a date and prepare a draft agenda. It's now moved to June 2024. And the Amherst Landing Memorial, the date for the dedication is postponed due to coincide with the completion of the new accessible trail to the monument. And the tentative date now is October 14th from 2 to 3. In its current form, the HHAC committee is unable to fill the responsibilities of a heritage committee as defined in the Town of Torbay Heritage Regulations 2014, and the manager is exploring the possibility of reforming the current HHAC to conform to and meet the requirements of the regulations. This will require adding public members to the committee. And that's it. And the the grants, and that's an update, it's put on there. One thing that I like when I look at this, and it's only just reminding me, but is it possible, I don't know who this would go to follow up with Jen, and I think it's Jen, if not Noah, the New Horizons funding applications. I think that was due probably last week. I just wanted to make sure. Do you know if that went in or if there's anything on it? Mark, would you be able to? You got it? Okay. So I sent it to Noah and Jen.
Yeah, let me just, you just bear with me and I'll see if you want to proceed and I'll come back
Okay.
to answer
All
your
right,
question.
that's it then for me.
All right, any questions?
Can I just mention one other thing that we did discuss, e-services? And this is not only
Oh, yeah.
happening at the History House, but other departments as well. When people want to purchase tickets or whatever for events, we're having the same trouble. A lot of people are complaining about the service. We kind of, again, discussed this for years and years and years now, so we really got to look at maybe getting some other organization or company to come in and
We've asked
help with this.
Jen to go back, because it seems like the Common is getting with a lot of that.
Yeah.
And to come back for the budget process to look at what other alternatives that are available and with cost associated with it.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. What's next, buddy?
Infrastructure and Public Works.
All right, Councilor Pollard.
Thank you, your worships, once again. We did meet on the 13th at 8:15, myself and Councilor Appleby and Director Bryan. A lot of the information is pretty much a repeat of ongoing projects that are there. In relation to the flow meter project, we have been waiting for the training, and the training was actually done, and now there's a sending unit of some type that we're still waiting for that arrival so that we can actually get the information to the transmit to the system. Brian, did we get an update on that? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. The nodes were actually installed today, and they're going to finish up the last 2 tomorrow, I believe it is. So within 24 to 48 hours, there should be information flowing from there. So it's finally up and running, I guess.
Thank you. Trail projects, information there on the trails. We know that we have a couple tied up in legal status at this point in time, so they're still progressing as best they can. And we're getting close to the end of the season now for most of that work. The safety lights for the fire department, still waiting on WSP to finish up the tender document. The next item up is the salt and storage shed, and remember we had talked about this in last year's budget and approved the funding to go ahead, and we're at a point now where we need the engineering design before evaluation is possible on what the cost looks like at the end of the day. Myself and Councillor Appleby don't necessarily agree on this stage. We agree on look at the importance of the cost overall, but I think we need to at least get the drawings done and the design done so we know, and out to tender so that we know exactly what that cost is then, and make a decision at that point in time whether we move ahead or we don't move ahead at all. But the motion is here. So a motion to award engineering service portion of the salt shed storage project to WSP Limited in the amount of $40,354.80 plus HST. Work will be completed as per the scope of work agreed to as part of the RFQ. So moved.
Second.
Moved. Seconded. Comments?
Yeah, if I could, Mayor. Councillor Pollard is right. We've had some discussion at committee, and this is not something that I support. And I shared as a courtesy with my colleagues at committee that, the committee, makes the recommendation to bring the decision forward to council. No problem with that. But $40,000 of taxpayers' money to decide if we proceed with a potential $500,000 salt storage shed in these economic times is not something that I'm comfortable with. So it's a decision of council, and that's absolutely fine, and I'll respect council's decision. But I just wanted to touch on the comment that Councillor Pollard made and the reason why I'm not in favor of this motion tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I guess I'm surprised because I talked about this. So while this is in here to go forward, it's a large amount of money. And to think that we're only going forward now for the RFQ, to me, nothing is going to happen with that shed for this year, obviously. So it's not going to be a benefit for our salt and sand at this time. So if we are going to pursue it, again, it's a lot of money, and I thought maybe another town had something similar to this. But to spend this amount of money, and then how long is the RFP going to be good for is another thing, because normally there's a short duration of time for it, and then we're going to be into the spring. So I see this as something that would take place in April or May or whatever, and then be built if we go ahead with it over the summer instead of doing it at this point in time, because chances are if we awarded this, it's still not going to be any good for this winter and to be able to do it. By the time to get plans, you'll be in the middle, look kind of foolish in December, January trying to put up a salt shed when we already got the salt on the parking lot. So based on this, I won't be in favor of it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I know when we talked about this previously last year, it was always about, well, we have to start somewhere with the wastage that we're having with our salt, and what's it doing to the the local environment around there and everything else. So I do know it seems like, and it is a lot of money at this particular point, but at what point do we move ahead and actually start this and have it done? I understand maybe time's of the essence in terms of how long that quote would be good for, but we got to start somewhere. We got to stop the wastage that will happen every single year and year to year until we do something about this.
Okay. Anyone else? I will just say this. This is for the engineering portion. So that's to get planned on to build the place. If we don't do that until next April, will be another year before we ever get a chance to start.
Agreed.
This stuff has to be finished, and the project has to be shovel ready by the time that we go out for tender in order to be able to get something done and get the good price and to be able to have the project completed instead of doing something and then dragging it over 3 or 4 years. So I have no issue with this piece. It has to be done, and the quicker it's done, the quicker we can make plans to actually start the construction phase. My thoughts. Okay, back to the chair.
Fine, Your Worship, I think all points were covered at this point in time. That we did not speak to the fact that, there's not necessarily a correlation between the overall benefit, although if we did the figures today, we'd probably be even more beneficial to put salt shed up in terms of the percentage of loss and the dollar value of loss, because that's gonna keep increasing, the cost of salt is gonna keep increasing, and as well the environmental concern. So, I'm of the opinion that it doesn't, at least when we got the figures in hand, we have more, we're only guessing at numbers at the present time. At least we'll have some idea of what we're looking at and make a more intelligent decision on that moving forward.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
The road project for the year is essentially complete, just there's still some deficiencies. If they haven't already been taken care of, they certainly will be shortly. The multi-purpose court is in the same type thing, just waiting the warranty inspections on that. Generator, we know we put on hold until we saw where all the other funding has fallen out, and we're still in the process of waiting for that, so I imagine that'll show its head at next year's budget again. Stormwater mitigation, the paperwork associated with the first phase tender for Bridge Road and Woody West Pond is with municipal infrastructure for review, so that will get back to us eventually. Councillor Appy had to step away on anything related to water and wastewater as per a letter from her employer, and subsequent follow-up actually to our questioning whether or not, you know, to what extent she had to step away, so it's confirmed that she will not be able to speak to these issues. Water treatment for North Pond, we know we got the first two phases done. Third phase, the estimate was $3.5 million. The director is going to be looking for potential funding sources for that, although there may be a consideration for that for multi-year capital works. Wastewater testing, that is still on the go. Great Pond water study, we know that that's going to be probably our next big project out the door. We have a presentation coming up on the 27th that hopefully will be food for us to understand how we move forward, what it might look like, and have some better idea on some firm figures so that we can finally get a handle on some growth for the town with services. Speed calming, there are some issues with some speed calming around, and the director is going back and look at some of the historic issues that had been reported, not necessarily being reported at the present time, and a revision of the policy related to speed bumps and that as well. Sewer backups, there is a policy, draft policy that we're still reviewing at this point in time. Needle disposal, information will be added to the town website and social platforms to better inform residents on proper disposal methods and locations. And once again, we encourage people not to handle needles themselves. If they happen to see them, maybe just report them to Public Works, and they will take care of that because they have the proper training. So we're looking also for the buckets or the containers that can actually have them as well. The rest is action tracking. Capital Works funding, we know we have till the end of October, and we're still in the process of putting together some figures related to projects potentially for that multi-year Capital Works. The most recent discussions, I guess, that came out of, I'll say out of nowhere, was the allowance of the province for us to continue with the estimated completion of the sidewalk from Bowling Line to Indian Mill Line. Upon review of some of the figures, the estimated cost to complete that is some $500,000 plus consulting fee of $35,000 to $45,000, and the corresponding budget that we had allowed for that was the $639,000 plus the town's portion $319,500. So we're approximately 50% of what we already had budgeted for the year to complete that section of sidewalk. So after some discussion, we decided that maybe we just put that forward and take care of that. I can't see, in reality at this point, not taking that money. We may never get a chance again to have that as an allowed spend under a cost share arrangement with the province, and it will certainly complete a section of the road so that it's more a loop, shall we say, rather than not complete a section. So a motion to proceed with phase 2 of the sidewalk project, which will see the section between Bowling Line and Indian Line completed. WSP Limited will continue to act as the town's consultant for this phase of the project. Funding for the project is cost share with the federal and provincial government at a 33.3% share each. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments?
you know, it's interesting that we're moving forward with that, but it just tells you how communication and working together is so mixed up. So basically, what we're going to do right now is have that layer of pavement put down, that they're over there now working on. And then when this tender goes through is exactly where we were to last time. And then they're going to go through and cut the pavement again and put in the sidewalk. So you can imagine when residents are looking at that, because to me, I think it's utterly ridiculous, because we're now paying for pavement that they're putting in. Or they're paying for pavement that they're putting in, and then we gotta go in, cut that out, and then go in and put it down again. Like, you know, if we knew we were going to do that, wasn't there some way, because that's my understanding from the MHA, if we knew we were going to recommend this, if it was done before, I understood then that it could have all been, potentially been done at one time. That was my understanding from talking to him.
By the time that we received the approval to do this, was well beyond the time that we've been able to piggyback that project. I mean, it just goes to show that we had no idea when that project was going to be started. The province never contacted
That's what I mean.
the town and let us know they're coming in to do work. You know, we're grateful that they're giving us this funding. And yes, it does seem kind of backwards, but, you know, we did approach them months and months ago, I did, and asked them to do this at the same
You
time.
were looking for a
with the
curb and gutter,
right?
wasn't it?
Yes, and, you know, it's really difficult because those tenders go out, it takes months and months for them to come back by the time that you finally get them. So we're kind of in a hard situation.
Oh, I
where-
know, but I'm just saying about how, when residents look at this, how frustrating that it is for them, and with the schools and everything. So this won't be happening until next spring,
Probably.
potentially now anyway. I mean, you don't want to be like before, trying to put in sidewalks and the snow. Anyway, I think it's ridiculous. It's time for somebody really to get their act together. If you're talking about saving money and spending this, and it's, you know, put down pavement and take it up again.
I think it's important at this point in time that residents do realize, because you've seen a lot on the Facebook pages and Twitter and everything else concerning Torbay Road and pointing fingers at council, even people who were on council before.
Yes.
Pointing that fingers at council, and they should know better that, you know, the provincial road is provincial road, and we don't have very little say of anything into it, and we didn't even know the project was gonna start, and here it is about us. And we had pushed for this sidewalk project, and in reality, if you were sitting in that seat, you sit down and say, well, is there anything else in the area that's being done at the present time? And they should have also known, because the approval of the sidewalk project rests with the province as well. So they should have said, well, we can coordinate this themselves, not even speak to us on it in terms of that we're going to give approval, and then move ahead. But no, they say, okay, go ahead, use the ISID funding now, and then find out that it clashes with something the TI is doing, and Bob's your uncle.
Total
But,
waste.
you know, I think that, yes, someone needs to look at the whole system, but hey, what can I say?
It is.
Just a quick question. I'm wondering, you know, with the sidewalks, when we're going to do them in that area, with the new business in the area, have we had taken into account for parking and so forth? Is that going to be, like, the sidewalks going to be pushed in? Is that something that we're going to talk about with the engineering firm?
Maybe we can look at that, Brian.
Quite possible, there may be enough room in right away to widen the road so you got parking on that side street, I guess. But then there's other safety factors when it comes to that.
Yeah, and I understand that. I was even thinking that we put culverts in tight to the wall, and then, you know, I'm just thinking because, you know, you got a new business starting up there, and you don't want to take away too much. I know there's a factor of parking on the road and so forth, but as a town, we got to do what we can to keep that business, you know, as accessible as possible.
I'll certainly bring that forward to the
Please.
consultant if this is approved.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I just jump in there for 1 second? I just want to reiterate the point the deputy mayor made. You know, we are proud of the sidewalks that are there for accessibility for a number of different reasons. However, I recall school opening and starting and kids trying to get to Juniper Ridge and families, you know, car to car, bumper to bumper, trying to get up there for the first day of school. This is not the first time, this is the second time that I've got residents contacting me and saying there's a problem here. And someone actually sent me a message today and said someone's talking about an open line. You know, I think that the deputy mayor makes a really good point when she says the coordination of this, and Councillor Pollard alluded to it too, all of this, it's a provincial road, it's provincial approval that's required for that funding. And my recollection, correct me if I'm wrong, was that at the time when we had the first round of sidewalks in place, the understanding that we had was that we were going to receive that money, and it's been advertised by the province on our road, the side of the road outside the building here, that we were getting the full funding when we never did. However, now we're looking at having an approval in place to go back to exactly what the deputy mayor said, cut up the road again, put the sidewalks in, which is a great plus and an excellent add to the community. But I think it's really important that we go back and write a letter ourselves as a municipality to the province and share our concern about the coordination of this, the cost of this, the impact to residents. And I'm fearful to say, with the process of going to RFP and getting all the stuff in place for the engineering, the tendering, we could possibly be looking at year 3 of children going back to school and having to deal with this situation again. And I can't say if it's fact or not, but I read a post on Facebook about a child that was actually harmed by a vehicle up around Juniper Ridge within the last 2 weeks. So this is a critically important issue, and although it's not a municipal jurisdiction, we have no jurisdiction over the road, we don't have the authority over when and how the funding is approved, we do have a pen and we do have a voice. And I think it's important that we as a municipality hold that pen and bring our voice to the table and go back through our MHA to the provincial government and share with them our concerns about the process, the approvals, the money that was taken away, and the impact to our residents and our community and safety for children going to school. I think those are conversations that we absolutely need to have with provincial government, and I would ask that council consider holding that pen and making that communication and asking our MHA to champion that on our behalf.
Yep.
Back to the House of Assembly, please.
So, just.
I don't know if that requires a motion, but.
No, it doesn't. Just to touch on that, I mean, that's the direction that council is giving, so I can write a letter. But that is kind of how we got into the situation that we're in now. For 2 years, I've been emailing and writing and working with the MHA, complaining that they gave us 2.3 million and put a sign in front of the town hall saying 2.3 million. And then actually only gave us around 1.3 million. So when we did go back at that time and ask for the additional money to do that piece and the rest of which was in our original scope, and I will always argue that the original scope of that project was from Mans Lane to Darrell Pye Drive. That was the scope of the entire project. We did it in phases to try and save money or worry about cost overruns. Then when we realized the tenders came back so early, we did go back right away and said, you know, we want to add this little bit in here, and they said no. And I've been numerous times over the last number of years speaking to ministers, and this time when I reached out to Minister Abbott and also with the MHA, he agreed to take a look at it, and then the department came back and said the restrictions on the ISIP funding have been kind of loosened a little bit, and they give us the approval. This actual item is one of the items that's on our agenda of UMC that M&L is working on now. Dr. Walsh is working on it to do with when funding is awarded, who's getting the funding, how long it takes from the time that the application goes in to funding happens, approval happens, until the time that construction is able to happen. So that's a bit of analysis that we're doing now to be able to figure out and share that with the rest of the groups. I know that I do have some when I bring forward our minutes from after the Bonavista meeting that we had. There was actually a report done on our town. So we do have information for our town, and I'll send it out and share it with the council when I get my hands on it from Inmill. But you're right, and I will go back and reiterate with the minister that more cooperation and collaboration has to happen between the municipality and the departments, whatever department it is. If you're coming into our town to do work, like they should come in and got a permit from our town to do that road work. It's within our town, it's within our boundaries. That way we would know when they're going to do work and what it is that they're planning on doing. I mean, when they come in and
The
build a
director didn't
school.
even know that they were coming until they
No.
showed up.
Right, so when they build schools in our place, they don't even come get a permit. Right,
They do for schools.
for school, yeah,
After we push them
right.
that way.
So, everybody's point is well taken, but I think that, in the big scheme of things for us, it's important to get that sidewalk finished. Back to you.
So we don't need a motion, you're going to write the letter.
Yeah, I'll write up
I
something.
just, sometimes we say
Could I
things
just
and they don't get done.
Speak to it
Yeah, go ahead.
briefly. No, I think that when construction starts next year, I am in favor of this. And when this starts next year, you're gonna have to repeat everything you just said. Because people are gonna come back at us and say, that crowd over there, look what they're doing again, you know?
Right.
So, you know, it's one of those times when, you know, this is a mess. It shouldn't have been. But, you know, in order for us to go ahead with this, we gotta do what we gotta do.
Yeah. Okay,
Is it, I think there was
right.
a lot of discussion on the motion, so.
I know. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you.
The bulk garbage drop-off for this fall will be the 12th, 13th, and 14th of October. So give people lots of time between now and then to get rid of all the garbage they got lying around, as opposed to having to worry about it on the weekend.
Got any old junk lying around home?
The mold issue at History House is still being investigated, and there's waiting on a price back to take care of the issue and what remediation needs to take place.
Okay.
Brief blurb there on the security contract and the associated cost, because we had some conversation with that last time around, and I'm sure we will revisit it again at budget time overall. We spoke to recycling, and there's going to be a renewed focus on recycling, and we're going to speak to MMSP to see what updated information they have there and try to get that, because there is obviously the removal of products from the landfill into recycling certainly helps us from a scale perspective, but also helps the environment as well, so that we can actually get some additional push on recycling. And the director is presently working on the budget for 2024.
Okay.
So ends my report, Your Worship.
Any questions on anything?
I just want, we brought it up actually at the History House the other day. Brian, just to look at the mold and what we need to do up there to get that, because we figured that it would probably be looked at on an emergency situation because the amount of work that needs to be done. So have you got, there's nothing back, like there's no update to when?
I don't have anything further than that was there. I was expecting something back today, actually, but I didn't see anything yet.
Yeah, because, I mean, they're up there, and the amount of work that Noah was telling us that needs to be done, there's a lot to it and involved with it, so you don't want people coming in the building and they're bringing things from upstairs, and in order to clean the mold and that, and what needs to be put down in the basement with a dehumidifier or whatever else, because there was a lot that he talked about that, so I just said where you've added another additional one. So I guess somebody's going to be looking at that, because Noah didn't know to say how many or what needs to be put in that basement in order for that to be prevented again.
Yeah, so that's part of what they're going back down pricing for to give the total remediation, thank you. Remediation of the area. Like I said, we did put another dehumidifier down there, and the Fisheries manager did say that it dropped from 85% humidity down to 60-something%, I believe. So the two that we got down there seems to be working. I'm not sure what the ideal one was now. He did say the ideal number, but
Yeah.
I can't recall.
55,
There you go.
45, 50.
45. The other thing, Councillor Pollard, is that the recycling, before COVID, Paula Lancaster and somebody else, they were going to do an education at the schools and to go up, and I know I had talked to the elementary school about having something up there to promote recycling, and Paula wanted to do a part on that as well, so,
Yeah. We'll take that little
yeah.
Do you have any
see
school
what's there,
about
get all
recycling?
involved if.
What?
Do you have any school about recycling?
They have recycling bins.
Oh, okay. Good. No education on it? We'll have to work on that. We'll work on it. Give you some more work to do, it's good.
I'm pretty sure they just tell us that it's a recycling bin.
Oh, okay.
favorite.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Where were we to? Recreation Community Services. Oh, took your job. Okay.
Recreation and Community Services.
Councilor Goss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We met on September 12th at the Common, myself and Deputy Mayor Lauren Goss and our Director Jen Martin. We looked at some event revenues and expenses and some program revenue and expenses. Jen did up some figures for us and also going to do a bit of a deeper dive there to see what the expenses are with staff component included as well. So we're going to chat about that at our next committee meeting. Just to keep in mind what the Torbay Common rental schedule, that facility rentals that, you know, we have we're bound, you know, to help as many, I guess, our community and people trying to use it. So just for the perspective, the town is currently donating about $1,148 per week in free rentals. And the weekly rental revenue is about $1,446. So it's something that we need to keep in mind because, you know, we're there to help both our people from the community and any organizations that will come in there. So we're trying to help as many as possible and yet still try to bring in some revenue for the facility. There was also some chatting about the upper three-quarter ball field maintenance. That's something that both Director Jen and Brian probably will chat about a little bit further. The cadet program, I know we've talked about this previously. You know, we're going to discuss with the Director of Corporate Services for an update. I know they're waiting to see if somebody got back to us, Norm, regarding the question that we had, or I think that Mr. Mayor, you had talked about it last time. Remember we had said wanted to see exactly how many from the community, that sort of thing.
Yes.
I'm not sure if we heard anything back.
So
That was Norm, yeah.
Yeah, we're the biggest thing we're finding is that you know, there's only so many hours that we can, you know, be able to facilitate everything for what we have currently. And first and foremost, we are going to do what's, I guess, in the best interest of our community and the people that from our community that use the facility. So we're trying our best to see if we can fit something in there, but not everything can be done, unfortunately.
Okay.
In terms of the alcohol events.
Oh, can I ask you a question
go
first
ahead.
on that, right? So the cadet program, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to accommodate.
As of right now, we're pinned.
Okay,
you know, in
because
terms-
if we can't, I might have another option for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But I need to know so I can go and do that.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get a final decision from Jen when she's back, but
Okay.
Deputy Mayor, I think we're pretty well.
It don't look like,
No.
because if it was prime time, it was a certain amount, and then if it went down to prime time, and they couldn't even afford that.
Right.
And we have a lot of the current groups that are there looking for additional time, so if there's something else, and we made the recommendation too about a school going to.
Yeah.
I already talked to him about that. so
Yes,
I'll follow up
okay,
with him.
yes, that'd be the best thing.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And the final thing we discussed, alcohol events at the Common. There has been some instances that, you know, there hasn't been, I guess, people acting in their best behavior. So we're looking at, you know, what, you know, with the events that the alcohol is being served at those, what other municipalities are potentially doing, even the liability side of things, you know, what's there in terms of if something were to happen, so to speak. So we're going to dig in that a little bit further. But beyond that, our next meeting is September 26th. If anyone has any questions, feel free.
This came up about the alcohol at events before, and I was quite vocal at the meeting to say, when we went forward to get that building, it was one of the things to have weddings or have like the concert with Masterless Man or whoever there. And it came to our attention, it's not all of the events that are there. So I don't want the public looking at this and saying, oh, they're serving alcohol and this is what's happening. It's one particular event that's being held there on an ongoing basis. So I think that that needs to be looked at and maybe not participate, be there anymore, or deal with the issues that are there, because I guess, and that was evident in what came up and some of the behavior associated with that. And as for not having bartenders, we had talked about before going out and asking if the staff that are there don't have the course, putting a call out saying that we needed bartenders. So anytime that we have events like that, and there are a number of them that are around. So I think that really this here, and when we talked about this before, this needs to come back to a committee of the whole for further discussion on where we're going and what we're doing with this here. Because as soon as you go and get legal advice on this, you know what the answer is going to be if there's a liability or what have you with it. And I don't want the impression to get out there every time there's a function there that people are getting in their cars and driving away. That's not what we talked about. It's particular incidents that are happening with really particular people.
And the other thing we talked about as well would be, what are other municipalities doing to have these community centers like this? I've asked Jen to probably reach out to see exactly how they go about things, to see if there's anything we can pick from them.
Right.
Obviously, every time you go to the legal, like Deputy Mayor says, not only you know the answer you're going to get, but there's also be some legal fees again, costs.
Yeah.
So I think if we use some of our partners and some of our other towns to see what they're doing, I think we could, just try to make the best of the situation.
I got some insight on that, and I'll share it when we have our meeting. I'm not going to talk about what other towns do here, because it's really not our place. But okay. Yeah.
Can I jump in on that? Just a couple of points there. The issue of serving alcohol and having someone who's got that course that the Deputy Mayor is speaking about, there are groups that provide those services. And we did a time in Torbay in 2015. We brought in a security group. They had the liability insurance that was required, so it wouldn't be the town's liability.
We have them at our events, so.
Yeah.
And for the work that's done around that, their responsibility is to ensure that they're not over-serving or over-pouring and people are safe going home. And that really puts in place the piece of not the town's insurance and liability, but actually the provider that comes in. So I'd ask for an analysis of what the cost is, if we train some of our own staff to do it, and what that risk and liability would look like to the town. Because if we have our staff trained to do this, and someone goes out and something goes wrong, the town's liable, and may be liable in that position. So we need to do an analysis on that. The second piece is do an analysis on the cost to bring in the external consultant or group, whoever they are, to ensure that the town is protected. The other thing that I'm thinking as I was listening to the Deputy Mayor speak, the policies of behavior at the facility. If someone is repeatedly getting inebriated or there's some issue there where there's a recorded, documented series of events, then we really should have policy to consider what happens in a situation like that. There's a lot of youth programming that happens there. There's liability for the municipality, damage could be done. If someone's drinking, if they drive, a lot of things for us to think about there. So I would ask maybe the HR and admin committee take that back, and the deputy mayor's on both recreation and HR and admin, so it might make sense to consult, both ways. But I really think we need to think about that, because we have security that are employed to serve certain hours at that facility to ensure safety of residents. And I think that we've got an opportunity here where we can do some analysis and have maybe a coordinated approach on how we respond to situations like this so they get mitigated.
Yeah, I know that when we have alcohol events over there, we do have a security, that external firm hired to work there, to work the main, looking at who's coming in the door, basically doing security and making sure things are operating.
Checking their bags and whatever that are there, right?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, sir. Holy moly, where are we?
Sorry, how do I say that?
There you go. That's liaison.
Liaison. Wait, are we doing this one?
That's almost like a French word.
Liaison committees.
There you go. All right, where are we to? Hang on now. Liaison committees. Atlantic Mayor's Congress. Wednesday, I am heading to Happy Valley Goose Bay for my Atlantic Mayor's Congress meeting. And I'm really looking forward to it. I've never been there before. And they are planning on putting off a awesome event, because normally we don't start till, we have a Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, till lunchtime and in your home, which is what I really love about the Atlantic Mayor's Congress. It's short and it's focused and it doesn't take too much time. But this one's going on Wednesday, coming back on Sunday. Happy Valley Goose Bay's really got a lot of exciting things planned for us, hopefully. I was talking to the mayor today. He said, don't bring that bad weather up here with you when it comes. So I'm hoping that I won't, but I'm really looking forward to that. And once we go to that meeting and I get the minutes approved for our last one, I'll share them with council. Intergovernmental affairs, provincial, municipal. It's the one thing that I have to report there is I have been back and forth for the last few weeks, particularly with MHA Wall about Torbay Road and the delays and where we're to and where that's going. He did get back to me again today with another update saying that the road is scheduled to be finished by September 21st, I believe is the date that he told me it was around. 21st or, yeah. So, fingers crossed. I know Jody is pushing the department and trying to keep residents up to date on what's going on. However, as Councillor Pollard mentioned, and the Deputy Mayor, we are getting asked questions about it because people don't necessarily understand the dynamic between the town and the province and that road in particular and some other roads obviously within the town that are under provincial jurisdiction. So it's up to us to make sure that we're always educating and letting people know that not advocate our responsibility, but to explain the difference between whose jurisdiction it is and that, yes, that we are trying to ask questions and act on their behalf. So that's all I got to update there. Jeff Byrne Regional.
Nothing to report. We haven't had any official meetings. We've had a few unofficials, just dealing with some certain things, but other than that.
All right. Okay. Northeast Avalon Joint Council, Deputy Mayor.
Our next meeting is on the 4th of October.
Okay, thank you. We're on the Flag Assembly. I don't really have anything to update, although I want to thank the RNC for all the focus that they've been putting on these missing people that we have in our town. And they've been reaching out to the community and trying to locate these individuals, and I'm really hopeful that they're going to be successful. It's it's tragic, but also I want to commend them for the work they did around this teacher that was involved in volleyball that's facing charges right now. The way that they handle that and how they reached out to the community and provided supports and stuff for people coming forward was, I think it was a real display of how you should do that and be open with the public and the people and let them know that it's okay and it's safe to come forward. And as we've seen since the time when they first came out, when it was like a handful of charges, now it's up over 50 or 60, which is horrible, but it's good that you're able to highlight that to bring that forward. So, all right, Torbay Volunteer Fire Department. Councilor Manning. Oh, hang on, I'll shut myself off and let you out there.
Thank you very much. I don't have the minutes there in front of me, but I did want to point out that, I'm not sure if it was Friday or Saturday night, our fire department had to respond to a water rescue. And from all indications, with the training that our firefighters have committed to for this aspect with the water rescue and things like that, that they did an extremely top-notch professional job in doing the rescue that was needed, and was well performed, and it just proved how our firefighters are so dedicated and their training has paid off and their interest and everything. I'm just proud to say that I'm part of the town that they are looking after. So huge thank you and respect for the time and everything that they commit to all of this. Just want to say a huge thank you. And that's it. Thank you.
And to that point, that one rescue alone emphasizes the wise choice that we made in supporting the fire department to get that boat. Because if they didn't have that boat, there would be one less person in this town today.
Absolutely.
So, thank you to them and to the training they do, and thank you to council for supporting that purchase at the time when they requested it. All right, number 2, Urban Municipalities Committee. But our next meeting is going to be at the convention in October, and I still have to get the minutes from that were approved from our last meeting forwarded to council for your enjoyment and reading. But other than that, I don't have anything else. All right. Oops. Notice motion. None. New business. Councillor Tepper.
Yes.
Okay, let me find where I wrote that down. Councillor Manning.
This is something near and dear to my heart. The ladies softball league, the seniors ladies softball league had our closeout weekend this weekend, and want to thank the executive and every one of the ladies involved that I met on the field. Great big thank you and job well done, and it was a fabulous weekend in on the field, and a thank you for having the field so well prepared for these ladies. Thanks.
All right, excellent. Councillor Appleby.
Thank you, mayors. First, I'd like to thank Mayor Lucas Hopkins for joining us this evening. Mayor, you've done a fabulous job. Thank you for being here. I also would like to thank the residents, as you alluded to, who are also out helping, trying to find the people who are missing in the community. There are people in our town who are giving their time, effort, and energy and trying to coordinate, provide the support they can. So I want to share your sentiment and hope that everyone comes home safe. And I want to do a special shout out and thank you to those people. A quick shout out and thank you to Chris Brown for the ability to have the conversation I spoke about the last time I was here. I was joined by a councillor in the city of Vancouver, Strathcona, Alberta, and also the Niagara region in Ontario. And we had a great conversation about women in politics. So on YouTube, for anybody that's looking for a riveting conversation about women in politics, feel free to check us out. And I wanted to just note that the Federation of Canadian Municipalities has met over the last 2 weeks. Our meetings were virtual with the wildfires that were happening in the north. So very happy to see that people are making their way home. And just want to thank our colleagues from across the country who have taken time to participate. And you know, one thing I wanted to share, Mayor, that has come to me lately. The positions to serve at the FCM board, they do exist not just for me. You know, there's one elected seat for the island of Newfoundland and Labrador, but what I'm doing right now is volunteering as a non-board committee member. It still gives the opportunity for anyone who's interested to volunteer at FCM to be a part of the board and understand what FCM does and to interact in that space. Those possibilities are there. So I think it's a really important discussion to have, and I think not just for our council, of course, you know, if our council members are interested, I'm happy to have that conversation. But I think also across the province, it's great for people to know that there are spaces and places to put yourself forward to participate at that level. And the last thing I want to say is thank you for the accolades when we participated in the committee meeting around anti-racism and equity. There were lots of thank yous that were put forward for chairing the National Women's Committee, and it was appreciated to have those kind words to recognize our contribution. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Deputy Mayor.
I just had the same thing that Councillor Manning. There's a big shout out to the Torbay Seniors Ladies Softball League, especially our year-round weekend, and our executive, Francine Fortune, Tina Codner, Robin Martin, and Mariette Byrne. And I have to say a big thank you to our sponsors, because if not, it wouldn't be Admiral's Rock Traditional Coffee House, Diamond, and Puglisvich. A great time was had by all, even those of us who didn't even win a game. Some people got the bragging rights here, but you know, we still had a really good time. Anyway, I want to recognize my oldest grandson, Douglas Goss, who celebrated his 15th birthday this past weekend. And a big thank you to Lucas for a job well done tonight. You'd never say you were a bit scared of the whole thing or anything. You showed nothing but confidence, so you did really a great job, so thank you.
Sorry, you could say thank you.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Your
I know
smile says it all.
I know when you're getting compliments like that, you're always waiting for the hammer to drop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lucas,
That's what I said.
go ahead, just,
I want to thank you guys for having me here, and I want to thank my friends and family as well.
all right, is that it? All right, good luck. Good luck in your school this year. So, I want to thank you for coming and making this experience great for us. It's nice to be able to put a different spin on things and get a different perspective, and I think you did a great job. And I also want to thank the AY alumni who this past weekend they celebrated what AY have done in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador for the last 50 years. I remember, and I talked about before, I was a member of the first AY post that came here in Torbay. I was supposed to go on the weekend, but unfortunately I was up to my elbows in grease changing the head gasket in my son's car, so that is where I spent the whole weekend. And I couldn't make it, but I want to thank them people that I'm sure were there. I could probably name 50 from Torbay alone that I'm sure were there to take part, and thank them for their commitment over the years. And I also want to thank, last but not least, all of our staff here, plus the organizers of the Pet Dog tournament this past weekend, 2 weekends ago, I guess, that it was a great time. We were so lucky. The weather was awesome. And I know Councillor Manning and Deputy Mayor and I participated. I don't know why Councillor Goss don't participate, even though he didn't play ball in his life. But that was another great job done by them, and that's going to be another scholarship to the high school in Petda's name this year. So it was a great thing all around. So thank you. All right, that is it. We got no Q&As, do we? No. Nothing. Okay. Next public council meeting. The next public council meeting is scheduled to take place Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023, right here at 6:30 p.m. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor? Aye. Bang your gavel, buddy. There you go. All right.